In this video, we will focus on enhancing existing rules for Windup. If you viewed the last video on Windup reports, this should look familiar. Let's take a look at the existing report. As you can see here, we've run Windup against the JEE example app version 1, and it's produced this Windup report. This specific report shows that we have many areas to focus on within this application. We're going to start by looking at some areas that Windup does not contain rules for a Java migration. Here, if I drill down into this resource report for the WebLogic startup service, you can see that we have many statements that do not have inline hints, but they are highlighted. So in this particular case, the WebLogic common T3 service def import does not have any inline hints. Neither does the non-catalog logger. You can see if we go further down that there are some inline hints here under the implements section. But there are no inline hints for this non-catalog logger. So we're going to start by adding some rules to add hints against this non-catalog logger within the Windup rules base. In order to add an inline hint for this WebLogic logging non-catalog logger, the first step is to understand what the non-catalog logger is. The easiest way to do this is, let's take a look on Google. And we'll just take a look at the WebLogic server documentation. And you can see here that this class provides application services for logging error messages to the WebLogic server log. So to me, this sounds like the Apache Log4j library within JBoss. And also, obviously, you could use your favorite logger if it's commons logging, etc. So the next step is, let's find equivalent mapping for the Apache Log4j to WebLogic server non-catalog logger. If you can see here, all they're doing is initializing the non-catalog logger, providing it a string for the actual logger itself. Within Log4j, this would look something like the following. The next step is we will have to put some text around this and provide this as an inline hint to Windup. In order to add an inline hint to Windup, it's as easy as going to the Windup CLI rules extensions folder, and we're going to edit the extensions XML file that's already contained within your Windup configuration. Extensions-example.windup.xml. In this folder, anything that ends in .windup.xml, and as long as it follows the Windup schema example, it will be registered as a Windup extension. Really quickly, I'm going to open this in my favorite text editors, and you can see from this example that this is a Spring configuration with a custom Windup schema, and the way we're going to add Java hints is, let's take a look at the Windup project. So if we go to github.com/windup/ and we go to the wiki, you'll see that we have documentation under here for both Java classifications and Java hints. Let's drill into the hints. This is the inline hint style that we want to add to this particular non-catalog logger. So I'm going to copy this example, and we can put that within the tag windup::Java hints. And this has to be a unique identifier for this Java hints tag. So we're going to call this non-catalog hints. The next step is we'll actually define our hint. So it is a constructor. You can see from source type, it's documented in the wiki, the options that you have there. So the source type here can be method, inheritance, type, construct, or import. So obviously imports, this is going to allow this hint to only be applied to imports or construction methods, or in this particular case, this is going to be used within the body of the Java class. Inheritance means that it's either implementing or extending a particular class that the regular expression was to match. And method means that this isn't just a Java class usage, it's actually a method invocation on a particular object matching this regular expression. So here, the non-catalog logger is actually a construction. So we're going to use the construct source type, and the regular expression needs to match this non-catalog logger. So let's just copy this string here, and this will become our regular expression. And now we just simply provide our inline hint. So here we want to say migrate the non-catalog logger to Apache log4j. And we're going to make this effort in story points add 1 story point. The next step is save this configuration, and we're going to rerun Windup. Switching to my command line interface, I'm going to run the JBoss Windup. And note right now there are 39 story points that have been defined prior to us adding the rule. Let's see where we are with our run. The report should have been rewritten. And if we refresh this, you'll see that the number of story points has jumped to 43. That means there's been 4 instances where non-catalog logger have been constructed within this application. And for each of those instances, 1 story point has now been added. Let's take a look within our Anvil web startup configuration. And if we scroll down here, we now see migrate non-catalog logger to log4j. That's great. We have our first rule. Now let's expand on this rule to actually provide inline Java examples of what this may look like with log4j. In order to provide rich hints, we need to follow the GitHub Markdown syntax for the Java hint. So first of all, we're going to create a body for this Java hint. And this body needs to actually have a CData tag in order to enable us to put non-standard XML within this XML configuration. So here I've defined the CData tag, and then within this we can put standard GitHub Markdown. The first thing we want to do is provide an example of what the non-catalog logger may look like when it's creating in log4j. First we want to put the body of our hint. Now within this CData tag, we want to migrate to the from the non-catalog logger to Apache log4j, and we want to provide a Java inline hint for what this may look like. So we're going to use the code block, which is backwards ticks, followed by this code syntax highlighting, and then we end that block with a 3 more backwards ticks on its own line. Now here, we simply are going to put our Java example of what log4j may look like. Let's save this and rerun the report. So we're going to rerun JBoss Windup. Now note that we did not change the effort for this migration hint, and so the level of effort should remain at 43. Refreshing our report, we're still at 43 story points. And if we drill back down into Anvil Web Startup Listener, we now have an inline hint that provides a Java example. Let's take a look at adding Java classifications. A Windup Java classification is an easy way to say that a particular class adheres to a particular set of properties which classifies it as a given technology. This example is saying if a class inherits from, in other words, extends or implements something that matches the regular expression JavaX, EJB objects, then we know it is a remote interface. You can see here that we have a login filter, and it does not have any classification currently. Let's take a look at what that is. And you can see that this login filter is actually implementing the JavaX servlet filter class. So we know that this is a Java servlet filter, and it would be nice if we could put that into our report so that people that are looking very quickly at the report can understand that this is a Java servlet filter. So in order to do that, let's jump back into our wiki under the Windup project, and we're going to copy this Windup Java classification example, and back within our extensions example windup.xml, we're going to go ahead and create a Windup pipeline. And the type is going to be Java. This is going to say, hey, add this rule to the Java pipeline. The ID has to be unique here. We're going to call this the non-catalog Java rule. And we're going to end this tag here. And then within that, we can just go ahead and paste our classification. Now, really quickly, this particular case is going to be inheritance, and this regular expression is now going to match our Java servlet filter. And we know that this is going to now be defined as a servlet filter. It's not as simple as just adding the regular expression JavaX servlet filter. We actually need to blacklist this. In other words, we need to tell Windup, hey, if you see this, highlight the line that uses JavaX servlet filter, and it's only after we highlight the line that we can actually write rules against it for the Java space. So it's a very easy change that needs to be made. Let's very quickly open up the base rule set. So if we hit open and we go into our base rules, let's look within our Windup configuration, and we can find our blacklists, which are underneath of the jboss-windup-context.xml, and we're going to add that in here. So we're going to name, this is just a regular expression, or dot star actually. So this is going to actually highlight it and allow us to add rules against this. So now we're going to simply rerun our rules. You can see here that this is now classified as a standard servlet filter. The blacklisting is the first step in any hints or classifications that you add to a Java class. So if it's not blacklisted, if it's not highlighted here, then you will not have the ability to add rules against it. Once we're happy with that, we need to add the blacklist and also the rules back into our Windup configuration and submit a pull request back to the Windup project. In the next video, we'll add rules that are focused on the XML configurations within the project.